Now to a story about New Zealand's busiest port, the Port of Tauranga, and the fact it's never had full resource management consent. It hasn't done what's required to get consent for part of its stormwater system, which pours directly into Tauranga harbour since the Resource Management Act came into effect in 1991. That's 27 years. And in that time, the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, which makes millions from the port as it owns 54% of it, has never fined it or prosecuted it. Here's Zach Fleming and our cameraman Nick Monroe again.
Chemicals, fuel spills, bark, dust. If it's on the ground, it could end up in Tauranga harbour when it rains at the city's port. But the port's taken decades to get permission for it.
This is unacceptable in terms of a time frame in anybody's universe.
A forthcoming mea culpa from the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, which has been complicit in the nearly 3-decade-long delay. But a reluctance from Eddie Grogan and Regulatory Services to actually define what the problem is.
When was the last time that the Port of Tauranga was fully consented for stormwater?
Well, if you don't mind, first of all, I'd probably like to make it really clear that the council finds this situation totally unacceptable.
We can come back to that, but very specifically the what. So when was the last time the Port of Tauranga was fully consented for stormwater?
So the Port of Tauranga has a number of consents for parts of their operation. So
Can we just start with the very specific, the what though? So we can delve deeper into all of the intricacies around it, but if we can just define the what we're talking about first of all. So when was the last time the Port of Tauranga was fully consented for stormwater?
Okay, under the previous legislation before the RMA, so I have to go back that far, when the RMA was coming in.
The Resource Management Act, RMA, came in 1991. Everyone was required to get new consents. The Port of Tauranga is still yet to do so for stormwater at its Mount Maunganui wharf, 27 years later. And we're not talking about small household stormwater pipes. The stormwater pipes at the Port of Tauranga are huge. I'm 5'10" and I can stand in one with my arms stretched out above my head completely straight. These pipes can carry more than 100 litres of water a second. Which means the potential for pollution is also huge, the highest in the Bay of Plenty, in fact. So given the huge potential for environmental harm, why has this taken so long?
There seems to have been a series of hold-ups, really. There's no one thing that's caused a hold-up of that time.
The first stormwater consent was lodged way back in 1998 and stalled, the council says, because the port was slow in providing requested information. Then the port's consent was coupled with one for the Tauranga City Council, but that failed too.
Probably have to ask the port and TCC why they couldn't reach agreement, but they couldn't reach agreement on how that was to be managed.
What's the Bay of Plenty Regional Council's view on why they couldn't reach agreement?
There was it was mostly about how to attribute an effect to a particular contributor.
The stormwater pipes start inland from the port, run under other industrial sites first, then under the port, and then feed into Tauranga harbour. The key hold-up: who is liable for what pollution? So the consent was uncoupled, and the council realised Becker, who was contracted to do the job back in 1998, lost the original paperwork.
A mistake was made to not have a backup, and therefore a whole lot of information was actually lost in terms of the progress, and so we had to start again, effectively.
Then a new application came in 2013, which has again taken too long.
Is 5 years too long? Yes, it is.
And then a fourth attempt, a new application in January this year after consultation. That went to an independent commissioner, and it's now up for submissions from the Tauranga City Council and iwi. Iwi wouldn't comment for the story, but a representative from one told Checkpoint the port was difficult to deal with during that consultation. And a council employee told Checkpoint that staff avoided the consent application because the port was too difficult to deal with. So what does the port say? Well, it refused repeated interview requests from Checkpoint, bizarrely saying it would do a phone interview but not an on-camera interview for legal reasons. The port said in writing it agrees the time taken is unacceptable, but said there are multiple reasons why the consent hasn't been processed, including the complexity of it and consultations. The port says it's invested in stormwater management in the 20 years it's been trying to obtain a stormwater consent, and water quality around the port is good. The council has never fined or prosecuted the port for its failure to obtain the stormwater consent. The RMA's fines go up to $600,000. The council says it hasn't had the power to, and the port will likely continue to operate without a consent for some time.
Something as big and complex as this often does go to the Environment Court, and if that were to occur, then it could be more than a year until you actually get a hearing date, get the information in front of a judge and get a final decision.
All the while, unconsented stormwater pours into Tauranga harbour. For Checkpoint, Zach Fleming.